Welcome to the next video of Animation Universal. Today I'll tell you about two infamous criminal cases that occurred in the world's most populous country, China. One case is so gruesome that just hearing about it can send chills down your spine, while the other involves mysterious supernatural elements and bizarre, inexplicable details. Before we dive into the video, make sure to subscribe to the channel so you don't miss any fascinating and informative content. Also, don't forget to leave a comment, like and share to support us. Now, let's begin the story. The horrifying case that remains unsolved after 27 years. On the morning of January 19, 1996, in a small alley in Nanjing, China, a female sanitation worker got up early to start her daily routine. A strong wind had blown through the night, leaving the streets in worse shape than usual. The alley was cluttered with piles of garbage, and a foul stench filled the air. As she approached a dark corner near the end of the alley, she noticed a large plastic bag tightly tied at the opening. The bag looked relatively new, not like the usual trash bags filled with filth. She wondered if it might belong to a wealthy family that had discarded valuable items they no longer needed. After thinking for a moment, she decided to open the bag to see what was inside. In the dim light of early dawn and the damp, gloomy atmosphere of the alley, she initially thought it was a bag of pork someone had thrown away or forgotten. Inside the bag were many fresh pieces of meat, neatly cut and arranged. She decided to take the bag home instead of letting such a resource go to waste. Back at home, she opened the bag and began taking out the pieces of meat, intending to wash them and prepare a delicious meal for her family. As she carefully washed each piece, she speculated that the meat might have come from a restaurant. However, as she grabbed the last few pieces, she was horrified to find 3 human fingers at the bottom of the bag. The killer's methods were extremely brutal. Police quickly launched an investigation and identified the body as belonging to Diao Aiqing, a college student at Nanjing University. At the time of her death, Diao Aiqing was not yet 20 years old and lived in a dormitory. She was a first-year student majoring in computer applications and information management at Nanjing University, located in Jiangsu province. On January 10, 1996, a dorm mate violated regulations by using electrical appliances, and as the dorm leader, Aiqing was also penalized. Feeling upset, Aiqing went out for a walk that evening but never returned. She was last seen near Qingdao Road, close to the university, wearing a red coat. According to police, her neatly made bed suggested she had no intention of staying out overnight. Diao Aiqing's body had been dismembered into numerous pieces. Her head and limbs were severed and the bones in her fingers were removed. Her internal organs were intact but showed signs of exposure to high heat, appearing partially cooked. The flesh was removed from the bones, cut into more than 2,000 pieces, and carefully placed in black plastic bags. Her intestines were laid straight at the bottom of the bags in an unnervingly orderly manner. The first black plastic bag was discovered on January 19, 1996, at a garbage dump in Daijianyan Alley. On the same day, another bag was found at a construction site on Huaqiao Road, along with 2 travel bags at a garbage collection point on Xiaofenqiao Road. The following day, another bag was found near Nanjing University Hospital. A blue leather backpack weighing 7.5 kilos was located near a side gate of Nanjing University, and a black bag weighing 0.6 kilos was discovered at the university's athletic field. From January 21st to January 31, 1996, additional body parts were found at multiple locations. Based on reports, the confirmed remains weighed approximately 30.6 kilograms. Including scattered remains found elsewhere, the total weight of Diao Aiqing's remains was estimated to be around 32 kilos. Narrowing down suspects. Recognizing the severity of the case and the cruelty and twisted nature of the killer's actions, the Jiangsu police mobilized a large team of their most skilled officers to aid in the investigation. However, at the time, surveillance cameras were not as widely used as they are today, making it extremely difficult to narrow down the suspect pool. Aiqing had only been in Nanjing for about 100 days since moving from her rural hometown to attend university. She had little money and no distinguishing traits. living a quiet, introverted life with few relationships and no apparent conflicts. This left the police without clear suspects. Given her limited social interactions, investigators theorized that the perpetrator was likely someone she knew, with a high level of education and some knowledge of anatomy. This raised a series of troubling questions. What was the motive behind the crime? Was the victim assaulted? Did the perpetrator have a twisted fascination with dissecting the human body? When forensic experts examined the remains, they were horrified by the precision of the cuts. The pieces of flesh were remarkably uniform, as if carefully measured. Investigators concluded that the meticulous dismemberment indicated the killer had an exceptionally calm and unusual psychological state. As a result, individuals such as doctors, butchers, medical professors, and medical students were the initial focus of the investigation. However, the police were unable to uncover any significant leads. The case shocked the nation. Authorities assembled a large task force, stationed investigators at Nanjing University, and went door-to-door questioning residents in the surrounding neighborhoods. Yet after 3 months of investigation, no new information came to light. The police then centered their efforts on Nanjing University, speculating about possible locations where the crime might have occurred. They questioned every student at the university, but none showed any indication of being the perpetrator. The investigation team also detained several suspects, only for them all to be cleared of wrongdoing. Meanwhile, rumors about the case continued to spread. The killer remains shrouded in mystery. One theory suggested that Diao Aiqing was murdered by an organ trafficking group, but this idea was quickly dismissed, as it made no sense for someone to go through the painstaking process of cutting the body into pieces just to harvest organs. After 3 months, the investigation hit a dead end, with no further evidence to identify the perpetrator. The case was particularly challenging because Diao Aiqing was an ordinary girl with no known enemies or romantic rivalries. Even over a decade later, the police continued their investigation. In recent years, advancements in forensic technology, including DNA analysis, have been applied to cold cases. In 2008, Nanjing police collected a blood sample from Diao Aiqing's father, hoping for a breakthrough. Unfortunately, the identity of the killer remained elusive. Adding to the intrigue, on June 19, 2008, a social media account under the name Ki.lled, Black Mantle, posted an article titled, "A Small Idea About the Nanjing Case." The post quickly gained widespread attention. The author described the appearance, personality, motives, and methods of the killer with meticulous detail and a convincing tone. Many readers speculated that Ki.lled might be connected to the case, perhaps even the perpetrator himself, boasting about his crime. However, no concrete evidence surfaced to confirm these suspicions. Then, on June 27th, all posts related to the case were abruptly deleted from the forum, reportedly at the request of the police. In 2011, a young man was arrested after publishing a detailed account of the dismemberment of Diao Aiqing's body, written as though he had witnessed the crime. However, during questioning, he claimed that the story was purely fictional and part of a novel he was writing. He also pointed out that in 1996, the year of the crime, he had been only 14 years old. More than 2 decades have passed, yet the murder of the Nanjing University student remains unsolved. The police have uncovered no new leads, leaving the case stagnant and shrouded in uncertainty. Determined to uncover the truth. 12 years later, on July 1, 2008, a police officer who had participated in the investigation shared chilling memories of the case. He noted that the dismemberment techniques used by the killer were highly professional, indicating a certain level of anatomical knowledge. At the time, DNA analysis was not available, and forensic experts could only identify the victim as female based on physical characteristics and muscle fiber structure. The killer disposed of the remains in 5 to 6 different locations, primarily in densely populated urban areas. Anyone who had been present at these sites, even those who had merely taken out the trash, was questioned. Everyone was a potential suspect. Despite thorough screening of numerous individuals, the police uncovered nothing suspicious. Based on the locations where the remains were dumped and the investigation's findings, police theorized that the perpetrator likely lived near the Nanjing University campus and used a bicycle to transport the remains. They suspected the killer might be a doctor or someone working in butchery or a related field. However, this line of inquiry yielded no results. The police were unable even to determine the initial disposal site. By conventional law, a 20-year statute of limitations would apply. However, authorities assured the public that the case would remain open and would not be subject to this limitation. Diao Aiqing's parents, in an interview, expressed a willingness to forgive. If the perpetrator truly repents, they should come forward and apologize to us. We will forgive them. If they genuinely feel remorse, we will show leniency. The second case. Huang was born and raised in Shuangxing Village, Dongguan Town, Banan District, Chongqing City, China. Both of his parents were farmers, working in northern Chongqing. Jijun was a student at Dongguan Middle School. Since his parents often worked far from home, Jijun primarily lived alone. Every Saturday, he would take a bus to visit his parents and collect his living expenses. Weekends were the only time the family could reunite. According to villagers and classmates, Zijun was a well-behaved, introverted boy who enjoyed reading ghost stories. His parents owned an old house near his school. Due to the family's infrequent visits, the house was desolate, aged, and smelled damp, like an abandoned property. On October 25, 2009, a weekend, Zijun visited Shuangxing to spend time with his parents as usual. Before returning to school, he mentioned that he would stop by the old house to clean it up a bit. However, the following weekend, Zijun did not come home. Concerned, his father, Huang tried calling him, but Zijun did not answer. On October 5th, Jilu contacted the school, only to learn that Zijun had been absent for an entire week. The teachers, assuming he was sick due to a flu outbreak, had not reached out. Alarmed and frustrated, Jilu rushed to the old house. He found the front door and windows still shut, but the back door was wide open. A haunting crime scene. Entering the house, Jilu was overwhelmed with terror as he discovered his son's lifeless body hanging from the ceiling beam. Huang Zijun's cold corpse was dressed in a red dress with a white flower pinned to the chest. Underneath, he wore a swimsuit. His hands were tied and suspended from the beam, with a 1 kilo weight attached to his feet. Nearby, a fallen chair lay on the ground. The room was in disarray, as if someone had ransacked it. On the bed were various items, such as a lighter, books, clothes, and VCDs. It took Jilu a while to compose himself before calling the police. The crime scene was in the living room. On the bed were a half-burned candle, a lighter, a VCD player showing Senseiya, posters, postcards, and a chain. The victim's hands were tied and raised above his head, fastened to the ceiling beam. The beam bore 3 grooves likely caused by the rope. Approximately 70 centimeters south of the body was an overturned bench, with its legs pointing towards the victim. Strangely, Zijun's head was wrapped in the red dress, and his body wore a black swimsuit with traces of candle wax. 2 pieces of velvet fabric were stuffed under his chest, resembling breasts. According to police observations and analysis, the victim appeared to have been bound and hoisted into position, likely by one individual. The wrist bindings were loose enough to slip out. The body was secured with multiple loops of rope to maintain the position desired by the perpetrator. The weight on the legs was tied meticulously to stabilize the body, with the knots firmly secured and difficult to undo. Forensic examination revealed dark red livor mortis marks concentrated on the arms, legs, and abdomen. There was slight bruising on the forehead, conjunctival hemorrhages in the eyes, and dust on the knees and toes. The brain lining showed signs of bleeding, though there were no head injuries. Pulmonary membranes also exhibited hemorrhaging, but no external wounds were found. Toxicology tests revealed no abnormal substances in the blood. Semen traces belonging to the victim were found on the bottom of the swimsuit. The time of death was estimated to be about 48 hours prior to the discovery of the body. Jilu confirmed that the red dress and swimsuit belonged to Zijun's older sister. Despite extensive investigation, the police found no footprints of a suspect or signs of struggle inside the house. Consequently, they concluded the boy had committed suicide. However, even if it were a case of suicide, investigators were puzzled as to how Zijun could have arranged such an elaborate setup by himself. Moreover, why would he choose such a complicated and bizarre method to end his life? When questioned, neighbors described the Huang family as kind, honest, and without conflicts with others. They also noted that Zijun had been a shy, introverted boy who never initiated interactions with others. His sudden suicide seemed strange and out of character. Police determined cause of death and quickly closed the case. After more than a month of thorough investigation, the police dismissed all prior rumors about the case. They concluded that Huang Zijun's death resulted from sexual asphyxia. While this initial finding sparked widespread debate and criticism, investigators presented the following evidence to support their conclusion. Ease of rope unfastening. During testing, investigators found that the knots binding the victim's wrists were easy to untie. The rope had been looped from the ankles upward, strongly suggesting that the victim had tied himself. Father's observations. The victim's father noted that he had previously seen his son wearing women's clothing, implying that the boy might have voluntarily donned his sister's attire. Additionally, traces of candle wax on the victim's body suggested a tendency towards self-inflicted behavior. Marks on the ceiling beam. The beam had multiple friction marks, indicating repeated contact with the rope. The front door was locked from the inside, further supporting the theory that no one else was involved. Characteristics of sexual asphyxia. The scene bore all the hallmarks of an act of sexual asphyxia. Self-inflicted restraints, easily releasable knots showing intent to escape, and a private setting where interruptions were unlikely. The police concluded that during an act of self-exploration, Huang Zijun accidentally lost his balance and was unable to free himself in time. Panicking, he kicked over the chair supporting him, leading to his death. Perhaps due to the sensitive nature of the circumstances, the Huang family declined all interviews regarding the details of their son's death. They also requested that the police minimize public disclosure of the case to the media. Was the case connected to witchcraft? Although the case was concluded with clear scientific evidence, many people still speculated about supernatural connections. In the early morning of November 4th, the victim's mother reportedly dreamed of a tall, masked figure sneaking into her son's home. Alarmed, she urged her husband to check on their son. According to the testimony of an elderly woman present at the scene, a suspicious, restless man had been seen in the village days before, but police were unable to locate him. The timing of the mother's strange dream coincided with the victim's time of death, a coincidence that fueled suspicion. In traditional beliefs, such dreams were not considered unusual warnings. Numerous theories emerged surrounding the boy in the red dress, but after filtering out the implausible ones, some chilling hypotheses remained. Binding the soul with Taoist witchcraft. The scene bore elements allegedly tied to Maoshan's soul-binding rituals. The setup incorporated all 5 elements of Chinese cosmology: metal, wood, water, fire, and earth. The swimsuit represented water, the red dress symbolized fire, the iron weight corresponded to metal, the beam represented wood, and the ground embodied earth. Additionally, the puncture mark on the forehead was interpreted as a mark left by soul-splitting needles used to extract the spirit. Astrological alignment. The victim's birth date, October 20th, 1996, coincided with September 9th on the lunar calendar, a day symbolizing double yang energy. Odd numbers. He died on November 3rd, 2009, exactly 13 years and 13 days old, a combination that seems significant in Taoist numerology. Harvesting yin-yang essence. The victim, whose astrological chart was considered pure yin, may have been targeted to obtain his supreme yin-yang essence, a rare and powerful component in Taoist practices. The suspect might have bound the boy's soul with the red dress to prevent it from scattering and used the iron weight to anchor the spirit to the site. The forehead puncture could have been a method to split the soul and extract its purest essence. Advanced soul extraction. According to some interpretations, the ritual might have lasted approximately 24 hours, which could explain the 3-day period between the time of death and the discovery. The flower pinned to the chest, referred to as a soul-guiding flower, or white bianhua, was believed to be a tool for attracting the soul's energy. If someone had indeed conducted such a ritual, it would have required extraordinary expertise in Taoist witchcraft, potentially pushing the practitioner toward malevolent paths. Thank you for watching this video. Don't forget to like, share, subscribe, and turn on notifications so you won't miss any future content. Your support means a lot. Goodbye for now and see you next time.